Yeah, yeah, you could. There's probably stuff you could get. We were going somewhere else and the store was just like, uh-oh. We didn't go in. More, right? Where is
I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight for the world premiere. Another day of fun. So we're going to get started. Thank you all for coming. Oh yeah, don't forget to silence your phones. I get distracted very easily. In the middle of the city, there's a park. In 1906, it was a green space of rolling hills covered with trees. It was surrounded by large homes filled with children who spent their free time in the park, letting their imaginations take them wherever they wanted to go. Today, it's still surrounded by houses full of children, but now there is a playground, a bike path connecting it to other parts of the city, and a lagoon that was dug in 1951 and filled with fish where people skate in the winter when its surface is frozen and the light is green. There are booths of people selling their wares, organized games for the kids, and a statue is going to be dedicated commemorating the day. People have come from all over the city to take part in this celebration. But for those who have spent their time here, it's just another day at the park. Trees swaying in the gentle breeze that brushes her face. She raises her hand to wave at the man who smiles and hurriedly walks away. He's late for a meet. He passes the car that's stalled in the parking lot. The engine refused to return. A curse will be clear. Charles Arts cries. He's walking by the slide. He wants to stay till the dark. His mom takes his hand, drags him away while children are laying the car. A plane overhead flies by. It's pulling a banner that says, "Come on, my free shirt and Tiger girl." Riding a biker's eye, she shades her eyes as she passes the trees. It's where the breeze of love. Oh, darling, the air is hot and clear. Oh, darling, you can see light from here.
As the festivities begin, there's a woman sitting in one of the park benches. She's the kind of person people sit next to and start telling their problems to, the kind of women children feel comfortable chatting with. And except for a small period of her life, she's been coming to the park almost daily since she was a month old. Her name is Lisbeth Edgewood Wellborn. She's 80 years old and has lived in the park most of her life. See that big house over there? That's where she grew up, the youngest of 4 children and the only girl. As she thinks back on her life, she smiles because her memories these days always seem to start with her mother, and the memories of her mother make her smile. Lisbeth and her mother, Virginia, were as close as mother and daughter could be. Their dreams not the same, but on parallel paths to the same end goal. To know Virginia was to understand Lisbeth, and to understand Lisbeth, well, let's just start at the beginning. Her mother, Virginia Harrington Edgeworth, was an aspiring author. She would retire to her room for 2 hours every day while she worked on her romance novel, ALA, Emily Bronte or Jane Austen. She said that writing was in their blood. After all, one of their relatives was Maria Edgeworth, a famous writer of books on how to raise children, and a contemporary of Charles Darwin and Sir Walter Scott. The fact that Virginia was not a blood relative of Maria never occurred to her. She adopted the lineage with the marriage. Unfortunately, Virginia was not a very good writer. For example, the large, gray, pregnant clouds hung low on the flat horizon. She was pregnant at the time, so the word kept popping up in her stories. She had sent so many short stories off to be published that she'd lost count. She did get one story published in a local paper. It was framed and hung in the hallway of her home so that it was the first thing that visitors saw when they came to the house. She didn't know that her husband Gerald, the local doctor, had agreed to treat the newspaper editor's family for free if he would do him a small favor. Of course, Gerald didn't realize that by doing this, it meant that Virginia would redouble her efforts to get her novel published, and it didn't stop there. She was determined that her children would be great writers. To that end, she read to her children from classics every day except Sunday, which she would have done also had her husband not intervened on the children's behalf, calling it their lessons in literature.
Sometimes they would have to write a short essay on what she had read. In the summer, the children, John, Jacob, Jesse, and Lisbeth, would sit on a blanket in the park. In the winter, they sat in the drawing room where the large picture window faced the park. That meant that the boys could see the other children play while they were stuck listening to what they considered excruciatingly boring books. But they remained silent, knowing that if they complained, it would add another 10 minutes to the ordeal, as their mother lectured them on their heritage and the importance of reading, blah, blah, blah. But Lisbeth always sat completely still, listening to her mother's voice, the words falling around her like a blanket to keep her warm.
The words like songs fall over me. I'm in Paris. I'm in Egypt. I'm swimming in the sea. There's a fire in front, no escaping it now.
so much fun. Virginia came in so excited. She had found the next book she was going to read to them. When she held up the huge tome entitled Moby Dick, John, the oldest of the four, slammed down his fist on the table and said, "That's it, I'm getting Dad."
And that was that. Gerald, who seldom interfered with the raising of their children, feeling that Virginia was more suited to the task, said that he thought that they had gotten enough literature and could stop now. Virginia was beside herself until Elizabeth, who was 6 at the time, walked up and said, "I would like you to read Moby Dick to me, Mother." The boys rolled their eyes, but Elizabeth was serious. That's how it continued. Elizabeth and her mother enjoying great literature together.
Elizabeth grew up quiet and serious, perhaps because she bore the unspoken burden of her mother's dream that she become a great writer. She loved reading and writing more than anything. Like her mother, she wrote every day, only she didn't stay in her room. She wrote at her favorite bench in the park. It didn't matter what the weather was. She felt that being outside inspired her. Everyone from her parents to her teachers knew she had the gift. She shared whatever she wrote with her mother, her confidant and best critic. Maybe her mother couldn't write, but she knew a good line when she heard one, and she also knew a blinker.
In high school, Elizabeth began writing for the school newspaper. That is when she met Jack Miller, a handsome, popular young man who also aspired to be a great writer. Meeting almost daily in the park, Elizabeth began helping Jack with his articles. Maybe you could move this sentence down here, or change this phrase to be more inclusive. And they began to be seen together. If there was an article due that he hadn't finished, he might suggest that they go to the local soda fountain for a drink. They occasionally had lunch together at school. These weren't real dates. They were always work-related. But still, they got to know one another as their conversations drifted from the current project to their private lives. While Elizabeth came from a large family, Jack was the only child of an ambitious local politician. Although Elizabeth bore the weight of her mother's dreams, Jack would sometimes feel like he was being crushed by his father's expectations. He found that every article Elizabeth helped him with, every essay, every paper, would get an A or high praise of some kind. He began to depend on her not only for her expertise in writing, but also because she was the one person in his life who expected nothing from him. One day, in the park, as they worked on another article for the paper, he suddenly kissed her and then asked her to the prom. She was surprised, actually shocked, which would be more likely. Elizabeth ran all the way home to tell her mother. There was sun in the park, green grass, and flowers everywhere. And left behind, sitting on the park bench, was Jack, looking every bit as surprised as Elizabeth.
It should have been a happy time for Elizabeth, but that's when the gossip started about her and Jack that would not stop. How could he love her, someone so plain and, well, unexciting? And she wasn't even rich. Having also kept a low profile, Elizabeth did not know how to react to such cruelty. Why was it any of their business? What did it matter to them was laughing at her behind her back, she became so angry that she had to write how she felt. As the anger boiled up inside her that had been building for weeks, she suddenly wished that every single person who was skewering her on their spits of spite would feel the way she felt.
Her daughter the wedding she herself would have wanted, even though she didn't care for the groom. What had happened is that Jack had gone off to college and left Lisbeth and her dreams behind, but he couldn't seem to make it without her. And 6 months later, he returned home, where he found her sitting in the park on her usual bench, eyes closed as if in meditation, a pen in her hand resting on a blank sheet of paper in her lap. Ambition trumped every other emotion in Jack's life, and he needed Lisbeth to succeed. So he asked her then and there if she would marry him. For Jack, it was a marriage with someone who could put him on the path to success. But Lisbeth, she was marrying the love of her life.
we'll take a short intermission and you guys can get cake or whatever. There's a lot of stuff.
Totally different set, right? But I like the sound.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I could not have gone down there.
And she built an outhouse or something.
Yes.
I know, but it's like right up on our sleeping bag.
Wow, that's an awful big piece of cake. Wait a minute, you're not letting me eat that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, peach pizza is back.
Oh, we just went there the other day and I was like looking for, I ordered it and I thought about it, did I just
bunch of them, but there's these like, weird stuff like that. One,
She's very good.
right on the edge. It's good, isn't it? That's they're making a film, so we can watch it on the iPad. Right there. One right there. You ready? You got one?
Things on the table, looking at that.
He's gotta have a party in his mouth. No, there's no ice cream. Just like what do you do?
No, that doesn't happen.
Okay, we gotta go back. We gotta go up and play.
Well.
Almost ready to start.
Right? Yeah, right? Sometimes marriages fail. Lista's marriage was failing, but she didn't notice. She was the only one who didn't.
each person, and hers had shifted to accept what to her was normal. The increasing amount of time that Jack stayed at work or out with friends became their marriage. For his part, Jack really thought he was in love, at least at first. But what he took for love was amplified by Elizabeth's complete adoration of him and magnified by his admiration of her ability to write. She could take anything he wrote and make it 10 times, no, 100 times better. As time went on, though, his admiration turned to jealousy, and then to resentment, and finally to fear that he wasn't any good at writing without her. He stopped asking for her help, and although he floundered a bit at first, he began to find his own voice. He realized that he had learned a lot from Lisbeth, the way she could let her imagination find some new way to describe the most mundane things in life. He also realized, sadly, that the path he was on would lead him away from her. He pushed the feelings of guilt away, telling himself it would be for the best. He knew Lisbeth could find her way without him.
After graduation, when offered a job at a newspaper in California, his dad pulled a few strings. It surprised no one but Lisbeth that Jack went alone. He said that he would send for her after he got settled. But first he needed to see if he could make it without her. She kept hearing him say these words. What did he mean? He loved her, didn't he? She asked as she closed the door, but not loud enough for him to hear. The answer was there, hanging in the air, and as it floated towards her, she put on her nightgown, went to bed, and pulled the bed covers over her head.
No reflection looking back, and the
did not want to go home again. It was like admitting failure. Okay, she knew she was a failure, but she didn't want everyone to know. She knew small-town gossip would follow her everywhere. So she went to work every day at the college, avoiding any reference to Jack, growing thinner under the stares of pitying eyes. Every evening, after work and after a dinner of force-fed toast slathered in butter to make it go down, she crawled into bed and slept. Sleeping was the only relief she had from the realization that Jack was gone. Most of her nights were dreamless, just dark voids of time. Then one night, she had a dream so vivid, so real. The phone rang. It was Jack. He was saying he was sorry and that he was wrong and that he was just a day away and he would be coming home on the train tomorrow. Could she pick him up at the station? Oh my gosh, it was over. He was coming home.
Listening to the sounds
No, it was too cold for that. No, it was too fancy. No, it was, no, no, no. She stopped. She stared down at the clothes in her hands and then carefully began folding them and putting them back in the drawer. There was no phone call. There was no train. There was no Jack.
Sometimes misery is like quicksand. The more you struggle, the more you sink. Elizabeth struggled every day to believe that life would be good again, that she would once again have something to look forward to. But the struggle was making her fall deeper into despair. She awoke one morning with blackness all around her, and she knew she had to act before she gave up entirely. She walked into work, quit her job, packed everything in the car Jack had benevolently left her, and drove home. It was funny how 4 years of her life could fit into one small car. Every mile she drove took her farther from Jack, farther from the life she thought she was going to have, and closer to the uncertainty of the future. When she pulled into the driveway of her childhood home, she got out of her car and threw herself into her dad's surprised arms and started to cry. The whole story came tumbling out between sobs and the occasional, "That's okay," from her dad as he patted her back.
Virginia had come out of the house and was standing silent, listening to the story. But unlike her husband, there was no surprise on her face. She had heard it in her daughter's voice every time she called. Lisbeth would laugh and say that Jack would be sending for her shortly and everything was fine. But Virginia had known, as mothers do, that something wasn't right, just as she had known that Jack was going to hurt her daughter. As she stood there watching how her strong, beautiful daughter had been turned into this gaunt, frail creature, she wished with all her heart she had been wrong. When Lisbeth saw her mother at last, she stopped crying. The two of them looked at one another for what seemed like a very long time. Then they walked slowly toward one another until they were in each other's arms, and Lisbeth holding her sobbing mother, though thought for a moment that her mother was more heartbroken than she. Lisbeth had thought coming home would make a difference and that it would enable her to move on. The first thing she did after the car was unpacked was to walk to the park. She didn't know what she was expecting. Maybe some magical transformation, some instant healing of her heart. As she drew closer to the park, her heart beat faster in anticipation. Then there it was, her favorite park bench. But it wasn't empty. Two young lovers were sitting on it, holding hands. For one brief, shocking second, she thought it was Jack with another woman. Of course it wasn't. How foolish of her. She watched as they talked and laughed and kissed. She turned around when she could no longer stand the sight, walked home, and crawled into bed. She was so tired. She just needed to rest. That's all. She just needed rest.
Lisbeth got a job at a bank, first as a teller and then as a customer service representative. She would go to work every day and at She had resumed her daily ritual of breathing in the air of peace. Although today it wasn't that peaceful, as a young mother was dragging off her son, who apparently did not want to leave and was howling at the top of his lungs. Lisbeth smiled as she walked back to work. She wondered if that would ever be her.
On a fine Monday morning, as Elizabeth walked through the door of the bank, there was a young man standing waiting at the desk who wanted to open a business account. "I'm starting a restaurant," he says. "That's nice," was her reply. "What's your name?" "Charles E. Wellborn." She wrote it down and continued with her paperwork. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. "Around 6 months." "I wondered, because I've been in the Navy and just got home a little while ago. You live around here?" he asked. "Mr. Wellborn, I have other customers, so if you could just sign your name, here are some temporary checks, and we'll send you the more permanent ones in the mail. Thank you for your business." She stood up. He left, but he came back to open a personal account. Then he came back because he couldn't balance his checking account. She discerned a pattern. He kept trying to strike up personal conversations. Finally, one day, he asked if she would like to go out to dinner. She replied that she was not allowed to date customers. He said that's odd because prior to asking her out, he had inquired of the bank president if that would be a problem, and was told it would be no problem at all. Elizabeth was a little embarrassed, but she kept her composure and explained that she was not dating at present, and that was that.
A few weeks later, Elizabeth was walking through the park before dinner. It was cold and snow covered the ground. She loved this time of year. The creek that ran past the park was frozen for the most part, but there were sections where the water ran under the ice, making a quiet, babbling sound. It was so peaceful. As she stood there, hands in her pockets, breathing in the cool, clear air, she was suddenly overcome with loneliness. She spent her daytime working and her spare time writing. But the writing that used to give her such pleasure now made her realize how lonely she was. Because when she put her pen down and the world she was creating subsided, she had climbed back into reality and under the covers of a cold, solitary bed. This evening, she closed her eyes and tried to picture someplace warm, with someone warm waiting for her. She was a writer, after all.
Through the bitter cold, on a winter's day, there's a summer breeze in a land far away. In the blink of an eye, you can conjure a light that brings all your dreams to life. All the trees will wet in an endless sky. Birds that pirouette in the air as they fly by, and the blue of the sea in the silent reverie the siren screams, once again denied. The world crashes in, and this dream takes flight. But in the land by the sea, he'll be waiting for me. And the light on my hair's just right.
A tap came on her shoulder. Lisbeth turned around startled, and there stood Charles. "Is this your scarf? I found it on the path over there." She took it from him and said thank you in a way that wasn't very thankful. She was irritated that he had interrupted her daydream at the point when it was just getting good. "What are you doing here in the park?" "Your mom told me I would find you here." "My mom?" "Yes, I went over to your house to ask you out for dinner, and you weren't home, so your mom invited me in for some coffee. We've been sitting and talking, waiting for you to come home. Finally, your mom sent me out here to look for you because dinner's getting cold." "Well, thank you for finding me. I'd better get going." "Oh, I'm coming with you. Your mom invited me to dinner." Lisbeth let out a sigh that came from the top of her head to the tips of her toes, and she started back home, not even waiting for Charles to catch up.
Dinner was uneventful, except for the fact that by the time the evening was over, Lisbeth's mother had arranged for Lisbeth and Charles to go out for dinner and dancing the rest of the evening. Elizabeth could have strangled her mother, but the truth was, she kind of wanted to go out with Charles. He was so easygoing and funny. He actually made her laugh out loud for the first time in, oh, she wasn't going to go. She wasn't going to even think about that. On Friday night, Charles came to pick her up. She looked almost normal. The pallor was not so noticeable due to the great amount of powder she put on. And she used lipstick for the first time in a long time at her mother's insistence. The dinner was at an elegant restaurant. At first, the conversation was stilted, but as time went on, they began to talk more easily. Charles told her that her mother had explained that Elizabeth had been through a rough period, although she hadn't gone into detail. He said that he had been through a rough period himself. Their experiences were different, but the same in some ways, and they really began to connect. Then came the after-dinner dance. There was a big band, and they were playing all of the current hits. When Charles, who was an excellent dancer, took her in his arms, to use a rather tired cliche, time seemed to stand still. The dance floor was crowded with people, but it was just she and Charles and nobody else in the world. When the dance was over, they didn't want to go home just yet, so they stopped by the park. When she said, "I wish we were still dancing," Charles said, "We'll just pretend. There's the orchestra over there, and here's the dance floor. Now, my lady, let's dance." He held his hand out to her. She hesitated for a moment, and then
felt for Charles, but nothing